You are listening to EP Culture Beat, the underground source of El Paso, Texas. Our guest for this episode is local artist Ho Barron. He is a surrealist sculptor whose work is reminiscent of ancient art representations of gods and monsters. His work can be seen around town and all over his house's front yard on Piedras streets. In this interview, we talk about his artistic journey and process and his current work. How's it going, man? How are you?
Okay, Miguel. Thanks for inviting me.
What inspired the trippy aesthetics of your sculptures?
I'm mostly self-taught, and I have a degree in library science and English, a couple master's degrees, and I was into writing, and I drifted into the visual arts because they're a lot more fun than writing. Writing is tough. I've taken some art classes over the years, but mostly I'm self-taught, and nobody ever told me what I should create as they would in an art class where there's always a slant, and so I developed my own style. Plus, I feel like, why reproduce what's been done? Why reinvent the wheel? I've always attempted to do something original. My pieces are real intricate because I always felt like I had time, the world wasn't waiting, and so I created a real intricate style.
Looking at your sculptures, we're inside your office right now. I'm pretty sure it reminds people of having psychedelic experiences. Is that something that you drew inspiration from?
No, I've barely done any psychedelics over the years. I call my work surrealist. Mm-hmm. It's not realism. I always said my camera can do it. I did photography over the years. I still do photography, and photography is realism, and I like the concept of pushing limits and creating something new, and I developed a style over the years and what I call motifs, and I do faces within faces, and
right,
and it's all work that I did with my hands with clay. I used an oil-based clay. It never dried. Mm-hmm. So I could continue working it. And so my work is surrealist. I call it abstract figurative. It's the human figure we relate to. That's what we relate to. Mm-hmm. I have no interest in abstract art because mostly it's just decorative, and it doesn't tell a story. And I feel like figurative art, it's us. It's who we are.
And we could see ourselves in it.
Somehow, and we can relate to it.
Yeah.
And you can look at my piece, and I can tell stories about my piece, and somebody else could tell another story. They're imaginative, and I like the concept of imagination and the creative process and creating something new and different.
Cool. It seems the neighborhood has embraced you. You've been having Halloween events, and you placed a little free library on your property. How do you feel about that?
And when I first started doing sculpture, and I put sculpture on the street, I'm on a busy street and I get thousands of cars probably a day. Mm-hmm. So I have a ready-made audience. And at first I was a devil worshiper, and I was a cult. Yeah. And people didn't understand my work, and there's still people who don't. You know, there's stories of women who pass my house and cross themselves.
Yeah.
You know? But I always say I don't believe in anything, so devil worshiper is nonsense. Mm-hmm. They're the devil worshipers. And I hire the bus bench outside, and it says that I'm a sculptor. And over the years, you know, when people see something repeatedly, they eventually accept it.
Right.
So, or hopefully they'll accept it, especially in the arts, because the arts can be anything, and sculpture can be anything. The Halloween events, I'm in a neighborhood where everybody knows, and on a main street, so everybody knows this house. Halloween, I'm reaching out to the public and inviting the children. I don't invite them into the house on Halloween, right, but I hire a living statue. And Cool. I've been doing it 10, 12 years, and I always hire somebody different. And I really like the concept of a living statue. I get 1,000 to 1,500 people here. I don't advertise it. And, you know, I have traffic jams in front of the house. And this last Halloween, I had a woman who's got dreadlocks. Yeah. And she was a Medusa, and she had snakes coming out of her hair. And, and her face was green. And it was a lot of fun. In Juarez, there's some living statues around the marketplace. There are like 3 of them last time I was there. It exists everywhere. I first saw the living statue in the living statues on the Rambla in Barcelona. Oh, cool. Where there were probably 20 living statues on that street. So Halloween is fun, and it's my favorite holiday. You know, I mean, it's
always
like,
fun.
What mask are you wearing today? What mask are you wearing tomorrow? You know,
that's true.
The little library, or the free library, is sort of something that's growing around the country, and there's a woman in El Paso who coordinates it. And I'm a librarian. I worked at the community college for 12 years part-time. My wife is still a librarian with the community college. We're book people, and we believe in books and we believe in education. She's actually taking care of the little library, and people bring books and people take books. You know, it's like bring a book and take a book.
Yeah.
It's a sweet neighborhood community kind of thing.
That's nice. How did your artistic journey begin, and how did you eventually get into making surreal sculptures?
I studied literature, so for a long time I considered myself a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, I eventually drifted into the visual arts.
Right.
And I went from writing into photography, into drawing. I was a librarian in Philadelphia in 1980.
Cool.
And I took a night course at the Philadelphia College of Art in sculpture. And I was drawn to the process, because sculpture it's not like somebody that paints on a two-dimensional image that's painted on a canvas, or a person draws on paper. You know, you start with a form. I start with a form, which is the armature. I put clay on it. And then once I've made my sculpture, there's a mold made. And with the mold, it's a whole process.
Yeah.
From positive to negative to positive to negative, back to positive. It's complex.
It's very hands-on.
Yeah, and I like the process. It's slow, but I enjoy it. I just drifted from one form of art to another. And I took a sculpture class at UTEP when I came back to El Paso in 1980 and learned the foundry process.
Cool.
And then I found the foundry in Juarez, and it's an art foundry that casts work for artists. And it's 30 minutes from my house. It's less expensive than the foundries around the country.
Right.
And it's also where I could work hands-on. I could work with the foundry and work on the piece in different processes, in different procedures, different stages.
Do you think that artistically inclined people typically go through phases like the way you did?
I don't know. Some people do one thing and they don't push their imagination. Also, a lot of times if artists feel like their work is caught on, they'll repeat the same work over and over again because, hey, I can sell it. And also, can you imagine a musician who plays the same song and then has to play it over and over again the rest of their life?
Yeah.
Or a singer. I've always tried to do something different. In two-dimensional art, I tried photography, and then I draw on the photographs, and then I paint on the photographs. And in sculpture, I tried casting in cement, casting in bronze, casting in resin. I did small pieces, large pieces. I did reliefs. If anybody visits my house, which I welcome people, I'm open on Saturdays from noon to 5, and I have probably 300 sculptures around the house. I think my setting is different than anyone else's in El Paso.
I was going to add, your work does have a lot of imagination in it, and what's the wellspring for that imagination? Was there a certain show that you saw as a kid, or a certain artist that just stuck with you in the back of your head?
Not really. I've been compared to like H.R. Geiger, which I am not H.R. Geiger by any stretch. I like comics because it can go anywhere. The characters can do anything, but ironically, I don't read comics.
Right.
But I like the idea, or science fiction, where there is no limit. It's limitless. What's the possibility? That's where I think art should go. And like I said to you when we were talking earlier, it's why do what's been done? Because it's been done,
I think everybody's just afraid of original ideas. Not everybody, or like I guess like
a lot of
population
people. A lot
large.
of people are. They need the familiar, like cowboys and Indians and Virgin Marys.
That's true.
But why do cowboys and Indians or why paint the mountains over and over again? Because they're limitless possibilities. But not everybody wants to do that, and I don't put down the people who do that because I think they're good artists and bad artists. But the creative process, artists produce for themselves primarily. If you don't sell your work, the line is, remember why you did it. You did it because you wanted to do it.
Compelled.
Yeah, because you have a passion, you have an interest, and we do the things that interest us. And I say, if you don't have a passion, what's wrong with you?
True.
People should have passions. I never had kids. I've changed my life a number of times, and so it's permitted me to make transitions. And transitions are fun in life. We're not forced to plant rice 12 hours a day, you know, or work in a factory and
that's true. We're not forced to do anything.
Job. So I've been fortunate,
right?
And I guess I've taken chances, but also, you know, it's luck too, and it is chance,
right?
In what we do in life, unless you say, I want to be a doctor when I'm 15 years old, and that's what I become, you know. But I never had that ambition. My ambition was to do what I wanted to do.
No limits. Create.
Yeah, I mean, there are limits, but in creativity, but there are a lot of ways to create. I mean, I think gardening is creative. Cooking is creative. There are a lot of ways to self-express. Walking in nature is creative because you see things, you know.
True. Being an artist full-time is tough. What's your measure of success?
Measure of success is relative, you know. I mean, some people, their success is how much money they can stick in their pocket. Like I say, if you create art and you enjoy it, that's success. Whatever you do, if you work on cars and you love it, that's success. Money doesn't make you happy, but doing what you want to do makes you happy. But you got to want to do something.
What projects are you currently working on?
I did my modeling in clay, and I made my sculpture for years. And as an old guy now, I just want to continue making things because it makes me happy.
Yeah.
We try to be happy, whatever that is. We're not squinching our face, you know, and sleepless nights.
Yeah.
And so I decided to do assemblages in sculpture. I decided to continue in sculpture. And assemblages are when you take found objects and you put them together. And I went into the flea market to see what I could put together. And I'm not a welder, so I don't weld metal together. I don't whittle on wood.
Yeah.
I don't glue wood together. Anyway, dolls, because they're us. Dolls are us, and they're figurative. So the last couple of years, I've been doing doll assemblages with found desert roots, and I think my work is totally original, although dolls have been in history, throughout history, in every culture, and my dolls are a little different, and some people say they're creepy, and you know, there are people that are afraid of dolls, and they're afraid of clowns, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's still relatable. I'm looking at one of the doll sculptures right now, and I think if it's art, it just has to have an aspect of relatability, and everybody's had a doll in their life. Everybody's at least seen a doll.
Like I said, I'm not into abstract art, because abstract sculpture is just fills space. It doesn't tell a story. But, you know, like I say, if somebody creates in the creative spirit and they call it art, who am I to judge?
That's
Although
true.
I do judge. You know.
Did you get into working with dolls because metal's getting too heavy for you?
Well, it's real expensive. Yeah, well, casting in a foundry. I always said, in two-dimensional art, the framers make the money. In three-dimensional art, the foundries make the money.
Is some of your art currently being featured in an exhibit or local public space?
Well, I have some pieces around El Paso. I have a piece at the public library facing Cleveland Square, 1,000-pound sculpture. I have a piece in the museum, which presently is in the basement. They showed it for a long time. I hope they bring it back because people would see it and they know my style. And and as they approached it, they would know it was mine. And like I say, kids and other artists really like it. And I have a piece at the Archaeology Museum in a little pond in the back.
Wow. You're a recognizable brand in the city. You've become a recognizable brand.
Well, I'm old and I've been around a long time. So
how does that feel, though, that people are starting to, they know your work and kids...
Well, I think I'm an inspiration to a lot of people. I think. I mean, I'm not bragging. But they're seeing something different in what I do and what I show facing Piedras Street, and it should inspire creative people to continue being creative and doing what they want to do.
My next question, it kind of detracts from what we've been talking about, but what's your favorite color?
That's a tough one. I like metallic colors. I like colors that are metallic. That's what I've been using on my dolls. So no one color particularly.
You just like that shiny aesthetic.
Yeah, I like the metallic, and you know, my sculptures kind of dull. Actually, bronzes are dull. They're brown, they're black, or they're green. Most recently, the color on bronze sculptures is called the patina. And most recently, foundries and patina, people who do the patinas, which is an art in itself, they're using other materials to create other colors. But most of my sculptures are brown, black, or green, and if they're waxed. Occasionally they need to be waxed to be kept up. But bronze is permanent. Metal's permanent, so unless someone wants to melt it down.
How does El Paso inspire you?
El Paso inspires me in that it's an easy city, it's a nice city, people are congenial, the culture is live and let live culture, and also I'm not so influenced by big city culture, and I'm bored in small cities. So El Paso's a good size.
A medium city?
Yeah, medium-sized city, and it's a secret. El Paso's a cool city in a lot of ways. And especially, like I said, live and let live. I put my sculptures out, and there was criticism of my sculpture, but it's still there.
Right.
And no one has said take it down. Actually, I did murals on my garage door, and there was a controversy about the mural. This was many years ago, and it went before city council. Because I'm in a historic district, they told me I had to take the mural down. And they finally let me keep it up. But murals are exciting in El Paso. You know, and there are a lot of good people here, and there are a lot of artists. There's a lot of drama, a lot of plays in El Paso. There's a lot of music.
It seems that your art tends to rile people up sometimes. Do you think that is something that art has to have? It has to at least...
Should art be challenging?
Yeah.
People do need to be shaken up. I mean, just by the fact that they've let the Republicans to do what they've done in this country and to undermine our educational system and undermine the middle class, they're eliminating the middle class in this country. So people should be challenged. 63 million people voted for Trump. Who are these 63 million morons, you know? They're unaware. They're either millionaires or they're ill-informed or uninformed. Fox TV, lies.
There's nothing more we can say about that, right? Like,
well, we could go on and on about that, but that's not art.
Just grinding our gears.
That's called manipulation of the public. And
is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, not particularly. I think we've said quite a bit.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
That's the end of the show. Thank you for listening. You can find this podcast on iTunes, GooglePlay Music, and Stitcher Radio. Be good to each other and party on.